Greetings, my lovelies. This is Blake here, and welcome to my review of Brick Mansions, which is a remake of the French action flick District B13. Okay, this is either going to be the easiest or most difficult review I've ever done because I could probably sum up my feelings in a single sentence and leave it at that, but that's not really fair to you. I need to clarify my thoughts, and that's not going to be easy to do. Okay, but I'll try anyway. If you've seen District B13, then you've seen Brick Mansions. I mean, I know that that could be said about a lot of remakes, but the fact of the matter is, this is almost identical to the original, only with different cast members. And I'm not just referring to the story, the plot devices, the twists, the characters, or their interactions, which are all definitely the same, but it also ties into the camera work, the money shots, the various stunts. I recognized almost all of the content in this movie from the original film, and admittedly it's been a while since I've seen District B13. If I actually watched it now, maybe I'd be like, well, maybe I was a bit too harsh. There are some differences, but based on my memory, I didn't notice many. And even when they do make a change, it's either to be more Hollywood-like. So, for example, the sister of District B13 is changed to that character's love interest, or, well, they have an ending that's more reminiscent of District B13 Ultimatum, the sequel, and I'll get more into that later. But my theory on remakes is they should be based around concept, not execution. So, District B13 was a fun movie. It was very energetic and exciting, and the parkour-themed action sequences were awesome. But that film only excelled because of the direction, the cinematography, the editing, the stunt work, the choreography, whatever. That is execution, and that does not need to be remade. I mean, you could take all that stuff and make an original movie with all of that. So I have no idea why the filmmakers thought remaking District B13 was a good idea, because its concept is rather weak. I mean, District B13 was pretty much Escape from New York with parkour. Okay, well, the parkour at least gave that movie kind of a fresh gimmick, so that was fine. But now you're doing it again with this remake, so I can't even say that the gimmick is unique anymore, because I saw it before in District B13. So that's always been my theory. Like, for example, take some Jackie Chan martial arts movies. I love Police Story and Project A. Police Story would be a rather stupid movie to remake, and I don't count New Police Story, FYI, if you want to be a smartass and try to counter that. Police Story works because of the action scenes, how well put together and ambitious they were. But if you just look at the concept, it's a very standard Hong Kong cop movie with absolutely nothing new going for it. That would make a stale remake, especially as it's going to be really hard to top the action scenes that were presented in the first film. Whereas Project A actually does have kind of a unique concept involving piracy and, rivalries between the different, law groups. I think it was the Marines and the cops. I don't really remember, but that kind of stuff could make a compelling remake because there's a lot of potential that the original story did not explore. But District B13 was not that movie, so it baffles me that they would even do this. And yeah, I have to admit, for the most part, I was not hating this movie, but at the same time, if I liked it, and I'm not saying I did like it, but if I liked any of it, it was only because it was coasting off the energy of the original, because it is, once again, the exact same freaking movie. Sure, it seemed like the editing was a little tighter than the first film was, or the first film had, and the camera work was a little shakier, but it never was a game breaker. I still did enjoy the action scenes. The stunt work, once again, was very impressive. One thing that concerned me, just based on the trailers, was they had Paul Walker replacing a guy who I believe was a legitimate martial artist and who could provide really well choreographed fight scenes. And David Bell, is that his name? David Bell? Something like that. He definitely has some mad skills, but he made the first film like, what, 10 years ago? Obviously his abilities will have diminished since then just because of age. But yeah, I didn't really notice it while watching the movie. I thought Paul Walker handled his fight scenes very well, and David Bell was still just as awesome when it came to the parkour sequences as always. So, no issue there. Once again, now if I watch District B13 once more, I might be like, well, wait, the action scenes were much better in this movie. And even though I believe they were better, I can't really remember to what extent. District B13 was fun, but I wouldn't call it a memorable flick. Same with its sequel. I thought the sequel was just as fun, even though it's much more idiotic. But I remember enough to make the comparisons with this film, but I don't remember it too intimately. So yeah, I mean, this film is competently made. The stunt work is still impressive. When it came to the cast, I thought Paul Walker had moments where he was very charismatic and fun. I'm not going to sugarcoat my feelings towards the guy just because he passed away tragically. I think Paul Walker had charisma, but it just wasn't as natural as, let's say, Stallone's, Arnold's, or Jason Statham's, or even Vin Diesel's. He needed the right role that could showcase his talents, and I thought actually the Fast and the Furious franchise, did him justice, and he in turn did the franchise justice, because even though that franchise was always about hot chicks and fast cars and lots of spectacle, it did actually give its actors quite a bit of room to act, and Paul Walker was really good in that context. But here, it's like 50% of the time he gets to show off that charisma, so if you liked him in those movies, you'll probably be fine with him here. But then the other 50%, he's just kind of a prop who's only there to deliver the action scenes. So that was kind of disappointing. And when it came to David Bell, he is a prop, but he's an awesome prop. He's really only there to deliver the action scenes, and he struggles with the dialogue. At times I felt like he was delivering his lines phonically, but he's not horrible. I mean, considering it's obviously a second language for him, I thought he did good enough. Then the rest of the cast are, I mean, they're over the top. They're really hamming it up, but for the most part, I took no issues with them. I will say this is probably the RZA's best acting performance. I actually at times thought he was pretty good. Then other times, not so much. But he wasn't as bad as he was in G.I. Joe Retaliation or The Man with the Iron Fists. Was it fists or arms? I can't remember. But so good for you. Unfortunately, all the entertainment that this movie had was kind of lost in the ending for me, which, as I alluded to before, it was kind of taken from the sequel, District B13 Ultimatum, and I didn't like the ending in that movie either. And the reason for that is besides the fact that it's totally contrived and it's bullshit, one of the changes they do make is, well, the RZA's character, who's the main villain. He's a much different character than his original counterpart, but the moral compass of this movie is really kind of fucked up. In a way, it sort of reminded me of Texas Chainsaw 3D, where it seems like the film's being very picky and pick and choosy when it comes to what morals you want to describe as right or wrong. And this film isn't too much better, although it might not be as noticeable as Texas Chainsaw 3D was in that regard, but I don't know how to describe this without spoiling anything, so I think I'll just say this. Apparently it's okay to murder, potentially rape, and deal drugs, as long as you aren't guilty of the crime that's relevant to the primary story. And it's even worse because they're spending so much time in this movie, making a point that, just because these people are living in a bad area, that doesn't make them any less, people. They have just the right to live as anybody else does. Well, that's a good moral. I agree with that. But this movie doesn't seem to agree, because the only time a character is called out for potentially killing somebody, it's for somebody on the outside, who admittedly this character ties into the character arc of one of the heroes, but I still thought that was messed up, that once it turns out this person wasn't guilty of this crime, oh well, it's fine, even though we've seen them pretty much murder people before. And that just totally ruined the movie. It's too stupid. It's irredeemably stupid. I mean, up until then, like the first 80%, it was dumb. Like, the villains are incredibly stupid. They have their boss in a car, and or the heroes have the main villain as hostage in their car, so his henchmen are just like shooting the crap out of this car with big ass machine guns. Aren't you kind of endangering your employer, guys? That was stupid. I might have even been in the original, and the original was kind of dumb too. But yeah, it was watchable. I don't want to say it was fully enjoyable, but it was entertaining enough. Whereas the first two films, District B13 and District B13 Ultimatum, they were fully just entertaining. This one is just entertaining enough up until that ending, which was so retarded that I just it took me out of the movie. It sort of ruined the experience for me. The only thing I will add to I forgot to talk about was the acting. It seemed like they trimmed down the characterizations and their development. Admittedly, that wasn't a strong point of the original, but I felt like in the original I at least understood why certain characters did what they did. Here, not so much. It just seemed like they trimmed down the parts that did flesh out the characters to a point and focused more on just creating a more lean action movie. But so you might even prefer that just because this wasn't a very good film to begin with, and even if they did flesh out the characters more, I doubt it would have even been better. But overall, the problem with Brick Mansions, although I will say that I do like the title, it's just a pointless remake. It's unnecessary but reasonably entertaining up until the ending, which is just abnormally stupid. But it is just I felt like I'd seen this movie before, and I had, because I'd seen District B13. In fact, I would say you should watch District B13 instead of this, because I just think it was better. But otherwise, it's just a carbon copy remake, and if you want to see a lesser version of District B13, then by all means watch this film. It doesn't make for bad Netflix padding, I'd say, if you just add to your Netflix queue or whatever you use, but I wouldn't pay it to see it in theaters, and I don't even know if I'd pay it as a full rental, but that has to be your decision. You have to decide based on your feelings towards the original, or if you haven't seen the original and you don't really want to watch a French film, then I guess you might as well check this out if you're one of those kinds of people. And I mean, if you are, I'm not shaming you or anything, but try not to spend a lot of money on this if you have to see it. That is all I have to say. I did do no written review of it, but I did do written reviews of Steven Seagal's Force of Execution and the first 10 or 11 Dragon Ball movies. I think the 10 I have up, and I'm going to post the 11th today, so please read those, and follow me on Facebook and Twitter, and I'll see you guys later.